I'll probably move to the slides now. This is the before I move into the real content of what I want to talk about. I thought I'll just start with one image and probably share some context of why I got into this business. I'm sure you would have seen this image earlier as well. Specifically, I think around COVID, a writer had used this to write a beautiful blog about change, and that's when the image became popular. So, if for people who don't know, this bridge is called Honduras Bridge. This bridge, when it was made in the year 1998, it was a modern marvel of engineering. It was designed to withstand powerful forces of nature. But unfortunately, the year when it was commissioned, the city was hit by a hurricane, and which caused considerable damage to the overall nation and its infrastructure. A lot of other bridges which were around this bridge, they got damaged. But because of this bridge being so strong and such a well-built, engineered bridge, it withstand all the storm, and it was able to survive. However, what happened was the river which was flowing beneath the bridge, that had changed its course and it has moved few meters away from the actual location. So if you can see on the right hand side, the bridge still stands there, but the river has now moved has taken a different course. The reason why I want to talk about this is as professionals, as individuals, all of us are trying to be becoming a better version of ourselves on a daily basis, but largely we are focused on what we are currently working on. For example, when I was at Airtel, I was into telecom, and I wanted to become probably the best telecom marketer anyone can think of. But what is happening is the world is changing on a daily basis, and some of these changes are really, I would say, really big changes, and that can change the course of the world completely. And instead of just focusing on how do we build ourselves to last, if we start focusing on not only building ourselves to last, but also to how do we adapt ourselves to the changing world, then I think we will be in a much better position. So for last 5 years, 7 years, since the time I've got into startups and since the time I've kind of jumped from a traditional company to new age startups, I have always focused on ensuring that I am adaptable. I am ready to adapt to whatever changes that comes to the world. And hence, crypto, blockchain, Web3, when I started looking around what next to be done after Shuttle, I thought the world is changing rapidly. It is changing in this direction very, very fast. And let me now delve into this. And so that if there is a big transition which happens in the world because of that, I should not miss out. I would also kind of recommend everyone. I'm not saying that people should jump over and start a career in crypto or start investing in blockchain or Web3. The point I'm saying is it is changing the world in a big way, and we should all be at least aware about how it is changing, so that in case we need to, we are ready for that jump to the other side. So that's the context that I wanted to talk about, why I moved into Web3. So this is a quick slide on what I wanted to cover. So there are three things that I wanted to talk about. First was what is blockchain. Second is what are cryptocurrency. Vipul also spoke about what cryptocurrencies are, but the third is the application of blockchain and cryptocurrency, which is Web3. Web3 is basically a combination of different concepts which I'll talk about. Concepts like DAO, NFTs, DeFi. These are upcoming concepts, and all of them together make Web3. So I'll talk about that specifically. So blockchain, as this definition also says, it's the underlying technology which is used to store and access data in a decentralized manner. And crypto is basically a math-based currency which is built on cryptographic principles. And as I said, Web3 it's a bunch of ideas or concepts which are built over blockchain, such as DAOs, NFTs, DeFis. I'll talk about them in detail in the upcoming slides. Now, this is the video I had shared with the participants. So, in fact, there was a couple of videos. One was on blockchain and one was on cryptocurrencies. Both these videos are pretty self-explanatory. In fact, they have explained the technology part extremely well. So when I was thinking about conducting this session, I had two choices. One was since I had only an hour with me, I could spend time on the technology part, which is explaining how blockchain works or how cryptocurrencies work, or I could spend time on their applications or how a world has accepted it, or what are the things which are causing the world to accept it. I thought if the video is able to cover the explanation part, the tech part, I'll focus more on the application part. So I'm sure you guys would have gone through those videos, both the videos. And in case there are any specific questions, I can answer that. Otherwise, I can just skip this video. I can move to the application part directly. Right? Sure. Okay, so now I'll move to the application side. Before I start, I just wanted to give a public service announcement, which is I would request each one of you to fasten your seatbelt, because what you're going to see right now, what you're going to hear right now, it is going to it's going to kind of shake you completely. It will be a roller coaster for you, definitely. So now let's move in. Okay. This is a big number, $3 trillion. And before I move into explaining what that number is, I just wanted to give some context about this number. $3 trillion is the overall market cap of all cryptocurrencies which are currently existing in the world. $3 trillion is also probably the number which is the market cap of overall Indian equity market. So if you look at all the listed companies of India, and if you total up their market cap, that's also about 3 trillion. So the point I wanted to make here was, if you look at cryptocurrency, which is only about 10 years old, and it is still in a very nascent stage of adoption, it has already reached a $3 trillion of market cap, compared to probably Indian equity market, which has been around for, if not more, at least about 60, 70 years, right? Compared to that, NASDAQ, if you look at all listed companies on NASDAQ, the overall market cap is around $20 trillion. So what I'm hinting at is crypto right now is very early in the adoption cycle, and it is already at the $3 trillion. In case it gets widely adopted, in case it becomes mainstream, just imagine the kind of market cap it can have, and the kind of overall influence it will have on the global economy. Hence, it is important for us to keep an eye on this number. We always need to keep watching this number. How is it growing? Because that tells us the adoption level, right? Moving on to the next big number that I wanted to show. This is 130 billion per day. That's the amount of transactions which happen on the crypto exchanges on a daily basis. Just to give another context around it, not context, in fact, a small example. Recently, there was this a football club which wanted to launch their own token, and they were offering tokens worth $40 million. So they opened up bidding for $40 million worth of tokens. In a day's time, there were $6 billion which were logged in, just for people who were looking to buy that $40 million worth of token. So for $40 million worth of token, people had logged $6 billion for a day. That's the kind of craziness in terms of adoption is there in the market right now. People want to get their hands on cryptocurrency, whichever new cryptocurrency is coming in, people will just want to get their hands on it. Moving to the another big number. As you know, cryptocurrencies typically need a wallet, which is a custodial or a non-custodial wallet. Right now, there's some estimate that which says that there are about 150 million odd wallets which are there in the world. But this is just an estimate. The number might be even higher because there are certain central exchanges which do not allow the consumer to have their own wallets, but they're still holding currency in them for them. So 150 million, even if we go by this estimated number, 150 million people have adopted cryptocurrencies. That's again a huge number for adoption. So it is already signaling that there is a mass adoption which is already coming in. Right. Moving next, this is again a very interesting number. Right now, globally, there are about 15,000 Bitcoin ATMs. So what these ATMs do is, as a consumer, if I am holding Bitcoin in my wallet, I can go to any of these ATMs, sell Bitcoin immediately, and withdraw whichever fiat currency I want to withdraw. For example, if I'm in US, I can go to a ATM, use my wallet to convert Bitcoin into USDs and withdraw USDs from there. So such ATMs, 15,000 of them are already there globally. Again, just to put things in context, SDFC, which is one of the largest Indian bank, has about 16,000 ATMs across India. While these are not comparable numbers, obviously we're talking about India versus global. But the point again I'm coming back to is the adoption has happened, and there is a kind of huge adoption which has already happened for crypto. Just imagine how things will be if it becomes mass, right? Again, another big number that I want to talk about. Right now, these are estimates. 13% of all US population invest in cryptocurrencies. They hold at least one or more of the cryptocurrencies. 13% is a big number. If you look at India, I think if we talk about equity markets, the adoption of equity markets will be in a single digit numbers. I'm not sure if it's even double digit. It will be single digit numbers. But crypto in US has already become 13%. And we'll talk about in the future slide, this adoption is becoming inevitable, not only for US, but across the globe. And I'll tell you the reason why it will become inevitable, why it will become a mass product going forward. This is the final big number that I wanted to show. This is slightly controversial number, but I still thought, just to give context about how adoption is happening, I'll still talk about it. So 7 to 8% of total Indo-China trade, which is happening right now, it's estimated that the payments are now happening in cryptocurrencies. While this is a very unofficial number, which I've got from some traders that I was speaking to, but what it says is there is a large scale adoption of crypto payments, which is already happening. And the reason for adoption is pretty simple in the minds of the traders. They say that there is a clear arbitrage which is available. Arbitrage in terms of both time and the amount of money they need to spend for transferring the amount. How is the arbitrage in terms of time? If I have to transfer money from India to China through normal banking route, it takes anywhere between 5 to 7 days for the transfer to happen. Nothing less than 5 days, definitely. And on the upper side, it can go much beyond 7 days as well. In terms of commissions, typically the banks charge 5 to 6% of overall amount which is getting transferred. Compared to this, if I'm transferring the amount in Bitcoin, the time which it takes to transfer the amount is less than 15 minutes. So maximum 15 minutes is probably when the transaction will go through. And in terms of percentage commission, which is getting charged, it ranges anywhere between 0.5, 1% to it can go up to 2-3% as well. But still there is a big arbitrage which is available in terms of percentage. While a lot of people would say that probably these traders are trying to avoid taxes and trying to make it not auditable by the government authorities, and hence they are making this payment in crypto. But the other way to look at it is right now in India, if I have to get into crypto, the only way I can do that is through exchanges which do all KYCs. So all KYCs are done. So government can track me, whatever transactions that I'm doing from fiat to crypto, that can be tracked. And second, once the money comes on blockchain through on any of the crypto, it is easily auditable because everything which is happening on that is recorded on the chain. So there's nothing which can be hidden from anybody who has access to the chain data. I can go to the Etherscan or any other chain data analysis tool and see who's transferring money from where. So that's it. But this is, again, as I said, this is an unofficial number which I've got from traders. I was speaking to them for some understanding about how crypto is going. But at least I was pretty amazed by the adoption. I thought if Indo-China trade 7-8% has moved, imagine what this number would be globally, where crypto is already accepted widely, right? So these were some of the big numbers that I wanted to just show to the participants, just to give them that context that crypto is slowly becoming mainstream. While I'm not trying to convince that this is legal or something, I'm just presenting the current scenario that it is already becoming mainstream in the world. Okay, now a lot of people keep asking, why do cryptocurrencies or anything related to crypto, where do they get their values from? Why are people joining that movement? Why do people want to support cryptocurrencies? While some people will say that a lot of people are there in it for speculation because they see that the prices are increasing on a daily basis. But if we ignore the speculation part of it and if we focus on the psychology of people who are getting into crypto, why are they getting into it? Then we'll realize that there are few things which are kind of leading people to get into crypto. And I have tried to create a mental model for myself, which I called as Decipher, which helps me kind of figure out what are those building blocks for crypto. So Decipher, it's a short form that I've created for the key concepts, key building blocks. I'll probably talk about them when I go into the next slide. So if you look at the first building block, Decipher, DE stands for decentralized. So the big thing about crypto right now is everything that most of the things that are getting built on crypto, they are decentralized in nature. And people who are supporting crypto, they are the ones who are focused on ensuring that decentralization wins over centralized power. What it means is, see, in the world around, the power is being concentrated into hands of few people. They are the central authority who decides what happens in a particular country, what happens in a particular area, what happens on the trade side, and the that power gives. I'm not saying that people are corrupted, but absolute power gives makes them corrupt as well. And hence, what is happening is people are left to the kind of whims and fancies of certain centralized power sources which are there in the world. There is a big segment of people who wants to move against this centralized resources. They want to ensure that things happen in a more decentralized way. In fact, there is a there are people who don't trust central authorities as they know that these central authorities are known for manipulating people and situations for their benefit. If you are trust, in case of crypto, what is happening is instead of trusting a central authority, you are trusting the system. You are trusting the code which has been deployed. If the system is not decentralized, it is bound to get corrupted by thoughts of limited people who are controlling the system, right? There's an interesting story. While Vipul spoke about the journey of how the currencies came into existence, there is a small anecdotal story which I had heard, which I thought I'll narrate. There was in the pre-coin era, when coins were not there, people were still using barter system, or they had started using, say, seashells or something to trade goods. There was this king who came up with this brilliant idea of using precious metals for making coins, and then making that coins accepted as a currency for trade. So what the king did was initially he minted those coins and gave those coins to his soldiers so that they can go to the market and do trade with those coins. Initially, the merchants were not accepting those coins, but slowly they realized that this is precious metal, and then they started accepting it. And then the trade started happening in those precious metal. But then suddenly the king one fine day said that from tomorrow onwards, all taxes are to be paid in that coin only. So earlier, if taxes were paid in kind, in terms of, say, somebody was paying, say, a crop, or somebody was paying, say, food items. Now the king demanded that all taxes need to be paid in that coin. And then overnight, the currency became an official currency for the king. What I wanted to focus on, the reason why the king did that. The king did it because there's a very famous saying, whoever controls the money controls the world. And hence the king wanted to make sure that they control the money so that they are able to control the entire kingdom. Right? In fact, this is prevalent across in the modern era as well. If you've seen, central banks or the governments are right now printing money, and they've been able to control the entire world through that money. US, as a superpower, it has been on a printing spree for lately. And in the last, I think 37% of all US money has been printed in the last couple of years post-COVID. So they've been using that printing capability to control the world. And there are people who definitely don't like that centralized power, the power of being able to print money at their own will and controlling the world. And hence they are getting together to create a more decentralized system. There is a very interesting mythical character in which is called Hydra. Hydra is it's a multi-headed snake. So what happens is uh, it's a snake. If you cut off one of the head of that snake, there will be two more heads which will pop up to make sure that the snake lives. In decentralized systems which are currently there, they are like Hydra only. If you cut off one of their head, two more will pop in to ensure that it takes up the place of those heads. The reason why I'm telling this story is a few years back, somebody had tried to create a global currency which was gold based, so which they were calling as e-gold. But none of the central governments or none of the central banks, they were okay with that because they didn't want to let go of their capability of printing money and controlling the country and the world. So they went after it and they summoned the person who was leading the entire initiative, e-gold initiative, and they put him in as in they didn't allow that initiative to fulfill. The reason that happens because it was a centralized thing that one person or a bunch of people were trying to try out a global currency. In case of crypto, because it's decentralized, it is very difficult for any of the banks or any of the governments to control or ensure that nothing like this, or to ensure that it doesn't happen. Right now, I'm sure you must have heard this. Bitcoin was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, but nobody knows who this person is. Nobody knows where he lives. Nobody knows how he looks like. He's a pseudonymous person and he's created the entire concept of Bitcoin. And today, because he's anonymous and there are so many people who are supporting him and it's a decentralized system, the government cannot stop it. If they stop this in, say, China, the Bitcoin miners move from China to some other country. If they stop it in some other country, they will move to some other country. But Bitcoin as a concept will continue because it's a decentralized system. And decentralization is what gives the biggest power to the overall crypto movement, which is currently happening. Right. So this is the first building block. And I think this is one of the most critical things to understand. Where does the power of crypto comes from? People who are decentralization maxis or people who support decentralization, they are the ones who will support crypto going forward. Moving to the second building block of crypto, this of the decipher, C in decipher stands for community. So again, a very interesting story or anecdote I wanted to present. Apple, which is a trillion and a half dollar company, today directly employs about 150,000 people on its payroll. And those 150,000 people work in Apple to ensure that the Apple company gets whatever market cap they are able to command right now. Compared to that, Bitcoin, which is also similar territory, I would say $1 trillion right now. Bitcoin employs 0 employees today. There is not a single employee which Bitcoin employs. It is all being done by the community. It is not a corporation. It is a bunch of people who have got together with a shared belief. Like in the previous slide, which I mentioned, their belief is that decentralization is something which will solve for all ailments of the world. With this shared belief, they've got together and then believe that if they stick together and focus on growing the community, they will all be able to grow together. And hence the power of Bitcoin or the value which Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency is being able to derive comes from the fact that they have a strong community which is rallying behind them. Well, some of the communities are frivolous as well. They are there only for speculation. But for major blue chip currencies, the community is extremely strongly knitted and they have this shared belief of what the currency aims to achieve. And they are rallying behind that shared belief. and hence the value of that the value for that currency comes from that shared belief that it is valuable, right? So having a strong community behind it and being able to utilize that community for value is the biggest one of the biggest building blocks for crypto. In fact, if you look at the existing companies, very few companies have been able to utilize the power of community for building a strong business. I can probably think of two, three companies or companies on fingertips who have been able to utilize communities. Most of them have not been able to use the power of community. One quick example that comes to my mind is Royal Enfield. As a company, it has an extremely strong, well-knit community which is running behind them. And that's what makes Royal Enfield the iconic brand it is, right? And very few other corporates are as iconic or as strong brands, community-focused brands as Royal Enfield. But that's one example which came to my mind, and I thought I'll just share with you. But companies or any idea which is able to rally a large community behind it, I'm sure that idea will survive because the community will make sure that the idea survives. If you have a good idea, but if the community is not strong enough, chances are that the idea might fizzle out. But if you have a half decent idea also, but the community is extremely strong, the community will make sure that the idea improves and they will ensure that the idea moves into a kind of a zone where it is globally accepted. So having a very strong community which is behind the movement is extremely important for the overall crypto market. Moving on to the next slide, this is the third building block, which is I in Decipher, which is incentives. Right. I was in the previous slide, I was talking about Bitcoin not employing any employees at all, and they've been able to create a market cap of about $1 trillion. How did that happen? This happened because they had designed the incentives for all participants extremely well. What I mean by incentives is they have ensured that people who are believing in that idea, they have an economic incentive which is available to them through which they will make sure that the idea survives. In case of Bitcoin or in case of any of the blockchain, what is happening is there are these validators which are supposed to ensure that whatever transactions or data movement which is happening is on the blockchain, they validate those transactions to ensure that no wrongdoing is happening. The way Bitcoin blockchain is designed, they have ensured that there is enough incentives for the validators to ensure that they only allow the genuine legal transactions and they disallow anything frivolous or anything which is wrong, which is happening on the network. This ensures that the overall blockchain is safe. Nobody is taking that blockchain for a ride, and they are able to ensure the safety and security of all transactions which are happening on the blockchain. So ensuring that incentives are well aligned for all participants is one of the key things which crypto has been able to do. In traditional companies, to me, it looks like, at least when I'm reflecting back, a lot of it looks like that it's a zero-sum game. If I am giving money, somebody else is getting that money, and the transaction, if I am gaining money, somebody else has to lose that money, right? It's a zero-sum game. Compared to that, crypto is a positive-sum game in the sense that all of them are getting together. Everybody has the right incentives for them designed, and those incentives are ensuring that everybody is gaining out of the entire system, and they will always stick together. They will, because they know that it's a positive sum game and they will all benefit from staying together. So having the right incentive design for the idea is one of the third big building block for crypto, right? Moving on, the fourth building block, which I believe, which is the P in Decipher, which I call as permissionless. So in software world, there are two ways of dealing or two ways of kind of ensuring the software world can work in two ways. One is it can be a open permissionless world, or it can be a closed world where there are permissions needed for every API calls, or the access is limited to certain set of people only. Crypto is on the other side, which is the open side. What they believe is the world needs to be permissionless. What it means is every piece of software which has been created, or every piece of code which has been written, that is available for people to use in their future innovation. What it means is, suppose I have, as a programmer or as a coder, I've been able to create something valuable, right? Now, instead of keeping that valuable innovation to myself, I expose that that innovation and make it open source, so that anybody else can pick up that innovation and now build over it. This ensures that nobody is reinventing the wheel. So whatever is already invented, you are just building over it. You are just building on top of that thing which has already been invented. This ensures no duplication, no wastage of resources. In the existing world, companies like, say, Facebook or Apple, or for that matter, Google, all their softwares, all their technologies are closed. Only people within Google, within Facebook, within Apple will have access to it, and they don't want others to use those technologies, because they see that technology as an advantage to them. That's where they are able to get their supernormal profits from. Compared to that, crypto is a much more open environment where people are okay to share whatever they have built. They know that if the overall ecosystem grows, they will definitely benefit out of it. So that's the key objective in the mind. It is like, I'm sure, like kids enjoy playing with Lego. When you have a composable system which is permissionless, it's like you have a bucket of Legos in front of you, and you can use those Legos to tell any story that you want to say. You can build anything that you want to build, right? Because the basic infrastructure needed to build anything is already there in place, and you don't need to reinvent everything. There is an interesting quote which I had read, which is around composability of software. So composability is to software as compound interest is to finance. Since a lot of us here are from finance background, we know the power of compound interest. We know how compound interest can make things much more interesting, much more useful. Similarly, composability, that permissionless nature of software, allows it to grow as compound interest. So in case if everything is open source and people don't need to take any permission, imagine the kind of innovations that can happen, because I'm not spending time on reinventing the wheel. I'm not spending time on figuring out what has already been solved for. I am just taking up things which have been solved and innovating over that. And hence the world will be a much better place. Right. So composability is what gives the power to overall crypto movement. Moving on to the next slide, the fifth building block, which is HE, which I have called as headless and trustless. In the legacy world, sorry for using that word, but it feels like legacy world right now. In the legacy world, what happens is, if I have to do transaction with anyone else which I don't trust, for example, if I have to say take a loan, I want to take a loan from, say, Vipul, right? If I don't trust Vipul, or if Vipul doesn't trust me, what happens is there comes a central trusted source in between us, who will become the trusted source for the transaction which is happening between me and Vipul. So what happens is, I will probably give money to the bank, which is the trusted source, and then bank will lend it forward to Vipul, or vice versa, right? But what is happening in the process is, when I give money to bank gives me 3% or 4%, whatever. But when bank lends that money to Vipul or anyone, they are charging 10%, 12%, 15%, and in some cases it can go up to 20% as well. So the difference between that 3% to 15, 20% is the bank which is keeping it for that becoming that source of trust. In crypto, what is happening is, in the crypto world, what is happening is, because there are no manual interventions, there are no human interactions which are happening, everything happens on the code. And code in that sense is law. If you coded something in a particular way, most likely that code will work in a particular desired fashion only. So there is no need for a trusted intermediary in between. So you don't need the central authority, which will become a trusted source of trust for them. People can be trustless as well, and even if there is no head of that thing, nobody is kind of leader or for a particular network, but still that transaction will go through because the trust is on the system, the trust is on the distributed network which is there of all stakeholders, and there is no central trusted authority which is needed, which is taking away a major share of the overall transaction or the major benefit of the overall transaction. So it is in a way allowing for trustless transactions between individuals. It allows for even if there is no particular head or a central authority which is approving something, the transaction still goes through. As it said in crypto, the trust is distributed amongst the network stakeholders, and hence you don't need a single trusted source, right? So that's one of the, again, a very important building block for crypto as a technology. Finally, it's a slightly playful thing which I want to talk about is crypto right now is like, it feels like a race course. What I mean by a race course is the best tech talent in the world right now, they are racing against each other. They are getting into the race of building something new every day. Because of all the previous building blocks that I spoke about, decentralization, incentives, community, the composability, permissionless, trustless, the best people, they are finding their talent more useful towards crypto because they know if they're able to create something, they will get their due share of benefits. So best talent is right now running and ensuring that they are the ones who are first in creating something. It's madness in the crypto world right now. Yeah. If I have seen the traditional company, I worked in Airtel. I saw the pace at which a traditional company works. In fact, when I was at Airtel, I always thought that nothing can be faster than Airtel because we were proud of the fact that we were one of the nimble-footed telecom providers, and we could make changes on the fly. Right? We were still partially tech-oriented because there were a lot of things which could be done at the back end, and things will immediately change over the air. We could change a lot of stuff. Right? When I moved into e-commerce, then I saw different level of speed compared to telecom. When I moved into other startups, the speed kept on increasing. But when I'm looking at crypto world, the speed is even beyond me. Even I get perplexed by the kind of speed that I'm seeing right now. Things are happening at a breakneck speed right now. Every day there's something new which is coming. Every day there's new innovation which is happening. And if we don't, if at least for my personal belief is, if I would not have got into now into crypto, probably I would have taken a lot more time in understanding because by the time I decide to get in or anybody else decides to get in, there'll be so many new things which would have already come that you will take a lot of time to understand. Right. So it is right now a race course that everybody is competing against each other, and speed is the overall mantra right now. Everybody is running at a very, very fast pace. One interesting thing that I want to talk about crypto is it's kind of a rabbit hole. When I say rabbit hole, it means that once you get into it, it's very difficult to come out. It's like it will suck you in. And I'm not saying it because I have got into it and I want to justify it. This is actually happening. I've seen this happening with people around. Once you get into crypto, try to understand what use cases are there, how people are innovating with those use cases, how they're redefining business models with those use cases. It will completely suck you in. And crypto, as I was reading somewhere, it seems to be a one-way road. If you can just go in, you cannot come out of it. It's kind of a rabbit hole which is sucking up people at a very massive pace, right? So these were largely the building blocks that I wanted to talk about. If we understand these building blocks, then understanding the applications of these building blocks or crypto as a technology becomes extremely easy, right? And hence I thought I'll just spend time on the building blocks first. By the way, whatever I've said, none of this is to convince any one of you to jump into crypto. The only reason I'm talking about this or sharing these things is because I want people to know what crypto is or how technology is evolving. None of this is recommendation to get into crypto or start investing into crypto, right? Okay, coming to the best part of the technology, which I wanted to spend maximum time on, which is the applications. How this technology is changing the face of business. I'm sure a lot of you would have heard this term Web3 from multiple places. You go on Twitter, you go on probably read an article. A lot of places, Web3 as a concept, a lot of people would have spoken about it. What is Web3 and why is it relevant in the context of crypto? So I just wanted to quote from this tweet. This is Chris Dixon. He's one of the partners at A16Z. That's one of the big VC firms who's massively into crypto. They are one of the earliest one who got into crypto. It's a VC firm. So Chris Dixon has defined it that Web 1 as read, Web 2 was read plus write, Web 3 is read, write, and own. Let me explain that a bit. So what is happening is Web 1, this is roughly in the eras of 1990 to 2005. That was a time when all website used to be a one-way communication. People would probably take a kind of a brochure or something, digitize it, and put that as a website. And we as consumers, we will go to that website and consume that content. And that's it. We could not do anything else beyond it. That was the max we could do. Whatever companies or whatever individuals wanted us to see, we would just see this. That's why it was called read-only Web 1, right? Web 2 is roughly 2003, 2004. That's when first social media apps started coming in. And that's when it moved from read-only to read plus write. What it means is not only you could read stuff on internet, you could also write on it so that it becomes a two-way communication. It is not only company giving their information, it is you interacting with company or you interacting with others, peer-to-peer interactions, all of those stuff became possible. Biggest examples of Web 2 successes are Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. All these companies, they are built on Web 2, which is a real-time basis. You are able to change the website or the app. Like if you write a comment, the comment is immediately visible on the app to others as well. So it's a two-way communication which is happening. Web 3 is it's a innovation which is built over Web 2. What it does is till now. In the Web 2 world, probably I'll just move to the next slide and then explain it, what I mean by ownership within Web 3. As I was talking about, Web 1 was only read-only, Web 2 was read plus write. Web 3 is also read-write, but then there are other things which add up to Web 3. In the web world, Web 1 era, what is happening is companies would create content and then companies will profit from it. What it meant was, if I am a site like Yahoo, I will put out some interesting content for people to read. People will come and read it, and whatever advertising dollars which will come, it will come directly to me. Right? In Web 2, what the shift which happened is it was people who were creating the content and companies were profiting from it. So if you look at Facebook, what is happening is they have ton of content on their platform. Or for that matter, YouTube, they have zillions of videos on YouTube. But none of those content or videos have been created by Facebook or YouTube. What is happening is people are creating that content, putting it on the platform. But unfortunately, what is happening is they are not able to get any monetary benefit out of it. Okay, YouTube does pass on some benefit to creators, but that benefit that goes to them is peanuts. It's like hardly anything. Web 3 changes it. What happens is here, not only people are creating the content, whatever profit that comes out of that content goes back to them. They are the ones who get the benefit out of that content. How does that happen? This happens because Web 3 combined with crypto, what it allows is that any platform can ensure that they create a token for themselves. In a way, that token is, you are creating ownership for the platform itself, or you are creating an incentive for people to create better content. By having those tokens, what it ensures is if there is any profit or if there is any monetary benefit that comes, it comes to everybody at large. Whoever is part of that platform, whoever holds that particular token, the benefit goes to all of them. And hence, instead of just being a creator or a consumer, which is reading or just consuming the video content, they are also the owner because they have coins with them or the tokens of that platform. If the platform does well, if the platform becomes big, and if it starts, if it like Bitcoin, it becomes $1 trillion network, then the benefit of being a creator also comes to me, because I also own certain tokens or coins in it, right? So if you look at Web 1, it was largely the transition was offline moving to online, which is, as I said, it's like somebody had a brochure, they just digitized this brochure and it became a website. It was like a way to move from offline world to online world. Compared to that, Web 2, it was mobile oriented. A lot of stuff happened on mobile, but it was still like you were renting real estate. So I wanted to spend a couple of minutes specifically on renting real estate. So there are a lot of people right now in the Web 2 world. They've been able to create a large following for themselves on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, TikTok, all these platforms, right? But they are still not the owner of the community which is supporting them. They are still renting that real estate from a Facebook or a Twitter or a YouTube. Tomorrow, hypothetically, if Facebook doesn't like a particular kind of a content or Facebook doesn't like a particular artist, they can just stop publishing their profile or they can just ban their profile. And overnight, the creator will lose all the community that the creator had created, right? They are still living in a place, it's like a rented place. The owner of that place can throw you out anytime. Your followers that you have, they are not your genuine followers till you own them. Compared to Web 2, when you come to Web 3, the ownership is largely with the creators themselves because they are the ones who have tokens of that platform. Anything that and because this is decentralized, the power equation is that nobody centralized can take a call on whether to ban a person or not. It is all decentralized. People, if there is a call to be taken on whether to ban something, it is done through voting, whether to tokens or some other mechanism. It is usually done through voting, and hence it is a decentralized mechanism. No single individual or no single platform can remove you or separate you from what you already earned in your past, right? Which is where the ownership part comes in, right? And lastly, the big difference is if you look at Web 1, largely most of the things which were happening on the Web 1 was open standards. In fact, just a trivia here, I think Linux, which is one of the biggest open source platform in the world, it is still the most used platform. While in the personal computing space, nobody uses Linux, but if you look at cloud computing, I was reading somewhere almost 90-95% of all cloud computing hardwares, they use Linux as a backend or as a software for them, right? So everything was open standard. Then Web 2 came in. Large companies like Facebook, Google, Apple, these companies, they closely guarded what they were building, and then the world evolved into a closed standard. Nobody knows the algorithms of Google. Nobody knows the algorithms of Facebook, Twitter. They are all closely guarded so that they make most of the profit. Everybody else loses out. With the advent of Web 3, we are now again moving back to open standards wherein no single authority owns the system or the standards. It is a decentralized mechanism and the entire community owns those standards, and it's again open standard. People are free to build over it. Right. So this is the difference between Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. We are in the era where Web 3 has just started. In fact, there are very few Web 3 companies in the world, but the way things are going, I'm pretty sure in the next few quarters or years, Web 3 will become more and more prominent. Okay, now coming to what are the use cases of Web 3? What are the live examples of Web 3? Before I move to the examples of Web3, It's a quick game. While I know I can't interact with the audience there, but I'll still play it. I'm sure a lot of you would be owning iPhones here. I'm assuming if nothing, 20-30% of the audience who is sitting here, they are owning an iPhone, right? In fact, world over, the stats are out of 7.5 billion people that we have. It's an estimate that almost a billion people use at least one of the Apple products, right? So that's the level of penetration Apple has been able to get. The other data point, so 1 billion users, it's a big data point. So it's a large enough community, and the community is super aligned. They are the biggest brand ambassadors for Apple products. You talk to any Apple fan person or fanboy or fangirl, they will convince you to start using Apple. And I've seen this, all of us have seen this. So it is one of the most closely knit community, people who believe in Apple as a brand, people who believe that that's the best thing they can use when it comes to technology. The other data point that we all need to know about Apple is last year, if I'm not wrong, they made about $100 billion of profit, roughly $100 of profit for every user. But the key point is the total profit was $100 billion. However, there are 1 billion users, but most of these people, I would say, in fact, if my estimates are right, almost 95 to 99% of the users, while they are dedicated Apple fans, they are dedicated Apple users, they didn't get any benefit out of that 100 billion profit that Apple made. Why is that? Because that profit went to shareholders. Obviously, there will be some overlap between users and shareholders as well, but people who had capital, who had invested money in the company, they were able to get the maximum out of the 100 billion profit. So as a consumer, as 100 billion users, I have put in my emotions into this product. I have put in my fandom into this product. I have put in my I've become a marketer for this. I have promoted this product, but I don't get any benefit out of it unless I become a shareholder. Compared to this, Web3, the paradigm is completely different. Every user on the Web3 is also a investor. So every user, because if I have to interact with any Web3 website, I need to use their tokens or their coins, which they have issued. And the moment I get those coins, I become an investor as well. So I'm not only a consumer, I'm an investor as well. Imagine if all of these 1 billion users of Apple could get a share of that profit which Apple made, right? That's the power Web3 has been able to put. Every user, because they have to own that token or a currency for interacting with the platform, they are not only consumers, they are also investors. Same goes for Ethereum. Ethereum, if I have to transfer any money or if I have to buy an NFT or whatever, I need to own Ethereum. And while I give Ethereum as a transaction fees or gas fees, which is there, I also store Ethereum for future transactions. And if there is an increase in the value of Ethereum, that comes to me only because I am benefiting as an investor as well. That's the distinction Web3 has been able to remove. Consumer versus investor. Now it's the same person, and that's extremely powerful. You can unlock so many things because of this. You can ensure the business models change drastically because of this. And now I think I'll take a couple of examples of how some of the companies have been able to use Web3 to redefine the way business is being done. The first example that I wanted to talk about was Axie Infinity. It's a blockchain-based play-to-earn game. I am not sure if a lot of people would have heard about it, but it's a pretty popular game across Southeast Asia. So who are these players? Who are the people who are playing this game? And why is this game so popular? There are people in the third world countries like Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam. The key characteristic of these people is they have more time and less money. The amount of time that they have is much more than the money that they have. They are obviously they're from a poor country. Plus, COVID was not very, as in they had a big impact on these countries. Some of the countries which were dependent on tourists, they start losing GDP because there were no tourists which are coming in, right? So a lot of people lost their jobs. They were out of money, and that's when they figured out what Axie is. So what is Axie? Axie is a game where people have to buy Axies. Axies are like Pokemon kind of a characters which are minted as NFTs. You have to buy those NFTs to start. And once you start playing that game, what is happening is the more you play that game, you start earning some currency, which they call as SLP, smooth love potion, which is the internal currency that they have. What is happening is you convert your free time into money by playing that game. The more you play, you are able to earn more SLP, which is kind of a currency. Another interesting thing which happens is for any game to be successful, it is extremely important that the game has enough liquidity. What it means is because it's a multiplayer game, if there are not many people who are playing that game at the same time, people will start losing interest because when I come in, if I am waiting for somebody else to come in to play with me, or if I'm waiting for a opposition, I will probably churn out immediately. But because there are so many people who are trying to utilize that time and converting that time into money, they provide liquidity to the game so that others who come in, they are finding proponents or opponents very easily. So they find it very interesting to play that game. What is happening is people earn SLP, which is the token that they're getting for playing the game. They also, the more they play, they're able to breed more Axies. If you see those characters, it is these are the Pokemon type of characters which people breed within the game, and then they use those Axies to fight against each other. Once they are able to breed Axies, they're able to sell those Axies to others as well. People who are not willing to spend time for breeding. See, there is this particular segment of people, especially in the developed world, which has more money than time. People in US, people in UK, Europe, they have enough money, but they don't want to spend time playing as much to breed a new Axie. So what they do is they just go to the marketplace and buy Axies which have been bred by other people, people from third world countries, right? So it allows for the people from third world countries to monetize their effort. So they're able to sell their time for both money, which is in terms of SLP, and because they're breeding Axies, which are valuable in the market, they're able to kind of sell that and create a living for themselves. Then there is this segment which I spoke about, obviously the players in the developed market. Apart from that, there are also investors. So what is happening is when I as an individual see what's happening around in Axie, I see that, hey, there is so much demand for Axies or the Axie as an NFT. For buying Axies, you need a token called AXS, which is again a cryptocurrency. So I see that since more and more people are coming and buying Axies, the demand for AXS token is increasing. So I start believing that if I buy some and hold it, I hold that AXS. Tomorrow, because the demand is increasing, my value of my investment will keep increasing. So these investors, they also start holding AXS, and hence the value, because there is more demand for AXS and less supply. Plus, there are people who need AXS to be able to even play the game. The value of AXS keep increasing. So if you look at the whole thing, what is happening is before Axie, I'm sure there were tons of games which are there, which people would have played. But what is happening is I was playing there for fun. I was not able to use my time to make some or earn something which is worthwhile my time. In India also, there are a lot of people who play games, especially if you look at people who are in a not very active jobs like security guards or auto drivers. They keep playing games in the free time. But none of those games give them any money to play, right? They're just, in fact, the companies make money out of these players because they're able to show them ads, they're able to kind of monetize the time that they're spending. There are a lot of gaming companies which sell things that to be used in the game. For example, some games will sell you skins or some games will sell you weapons. It's like you're taking money from the player, but none of the games were giving back money to the player. Axie or the blockchain based games, play to earn is what they're called. They flipped it completely. What is now happening is They are moving people who are not finding relevant jobs or good enough opportunities for work. They can come and start playing the game, convert their time into money, and that becomes their full-time employment. In fact, when I was launching, as part of Shuttle, when I was launching Manila business, I had spoken to at least 20, 30 of such Axie players. And the impact which this game had for them, it was life changing. Earlier, if they were earning, say, 10,000 pesos in a month, with Axie, pesos is the currency that's used in Philippines. With Axie, they were able to earn 50,000, 60,000 pesos, and their living standard improved drastically. While I'm not saying some people might say that this is just speculative, there's only a matter of time while this bursts, but I am trying to compare this with the age of industrialization. If you remember, earlier everybody was into agriculture. Then some of the industries started coming in, right? And then people started migrating from agriculture to industry. But agriculture didn't suffer because we were able to use technology to still sustain the same level of productivity, same level of production. And then the parallel industrial economy was created. Now we are moving towards a digital economy, digital labor. People will not work, some of them will not work in physical life. They will do their work in the digital life. They will be players who will play the game, and they will be rewarded for their time in the digital currency. And which digital currency, because of this flywheel, because everybody is gaining out of this entire system that they have created, because of this flywheel, the ecosystem will keep benefiting. I don't remember exactly how many people are there, but last I had heard there are at least million plus players who play this game on a daily basis. And Axie has been a big life changer for most of them. So what is happening is people who have more time than money, they are able to monetize their time. And then there are people who have more money than time, they're able to throw money and get entertainment. So it's a win-win for everyone, right? So this is how crypto as a concept, blockchain as a concept, Web3 as a concept has been able to create something which is extremely meaningful. And trust me, all games right now, whichever games are there, it's a matter of time. They will all move to this mechanism. They will all become blockchain-based pay-to-earn game because it's a superior model. Everybody believes that people who played Axie, none of them will go back to a normal game because they've started believing that it's a much superior model to be associated with. So this is how Axie is using Web3 to completely transform the business model. Right. Okay. Moving to the second example, it's called Helium. It's a blockchain-powered people's network. That's what they call themselves. Before I move there, I just wanted to quickly, obviously, I can't interact with people, but if I have to ask a question, how do you build a global telecom network? And if I have to look at Geo as an example, nothing against Geo, but I'm just taking Geo as an example. What will happen is Geo will first procure licenses, go to government, talk to them, buy network bandwidth from the government. They will hire thousands of people to do surveys of the locations that they want to cover. They will hire engineers, they will hire so many other people just to ensure that they're able to lay their network. They will put thousands of sites, they will spend lakhs and crores of rupees on putting that network. And then after 5 years, 7 years of all the effort of putting the network will be ready. And then they will launch that network to people. What is happening in the process is it's a massively capital intensive process to be able to launch a global telecom network. While I'm talking about Geo, which is only India specific, if I have to do something at a global level, it will be even more bigger challenge, right? But let's say with Geo as an example, so they have spent lakhs and crores of money for as a capex to be able to build a network, and then they open up that network for people to use, and then people start using that network. Right. This is the most obvious way of building a network, a telecom network. Then came Helium. Helium is a blockchain-based company. They came and they said, let us innovate the way new networks are launched. So they created a hotspot kind of a equipment, and they created this entire concept of people's network. So what is people's network? it's a hardware that they've created, and now anybody, for example, they go to a city like Amsterdam. What is happening in that city is there are two, three distinct factors for Amsterdam, right? One, people, everybody living in Amsterdam, mostly they have a broadband connection at home, where the consumption that they do is far lesser than the allocated bandwidth that they have. So, for example, if somebody is getting 100 GB of data, they'll probably be using 20 GBs, 50 GBs, 30 GBs. So they still have a lot of data which is available for them to spare. Second key thing is the mobile network, because the mobile network is also used for transmitting voice. Using mobile internet, as in using internet on the go, using the mobile internet is expensive, and not everyone can afford that. Even when we go to on roaming, we figure out that it's an expensive thing. India is still very cheap. Third thing is there are a lot of these IoT devices which have penetrated these cities. In terms of IoT devices, there are so many trackers which are currently live. So all cars will have a tracker so that they can track where the car is going. And these bicycle on rent or scooters on rent which are available, they all have a tracker. There are thousands of things which are currently connected to IoT systems, just for largely used for tracking and all. Things like people have bought a tracker for their dogs as well, so that if a dog goes away somewhere, they can easily track it, right? So these are all devices which are connected to internet. And these devices need internet at all time. But none of these devices need very high throughput internet. They're okay, even if there is a low intensity internet available, they work absolutely fine. And that's the beauty of IoT systems, right? So what Helium did was they went to people and said that, hey, we have a kind of a router, and if you have spare bandwidth, why don't you just put that router somewhere close to your window? What it will do is whatever access bandwidth that you have, it will become available for people to use. People who are on the go or devices which are outside and which cannot use mobile internet because it's expensive. You can create your own network and share that network with those devices. What happens is when first person comes in, obviously there are no consumers. So they kind of created this concept of proof of coverage. What it means is when I start putting up, as a first person, when I put up this router, if the company, if the chain is able to validate that there is network which is available for others to use, they give their own token.
Sorry to interrupt, but we are way over time. So if you could,
really sorry.
Please just take maybe 5 more minutes, but conclude on this.
I'm really sorry. I didn't realize I kept on talking. I'm really sorry. I'll probably close the Web3 part, and then probably I'll go to the closer slide. Right. So what is happening is once people they have offered their network, the Helium blockchain, they give them HNT token as a proof of coverage. So I, as a service, as a network provider, I'm getting HNT token, and what it allows me is now anybody who wants to use the network, they will need HNT to be able to buy credits for using the network. So because the mobile internet is expensive and HNT internet or network that HNT is provided, it's not as expensive. So what happens is people start using the service, but to use the service, they need HNT. So what happens is the demand for HNT keeps increasing. And because people who are providing the network, they are the ones who have the HNT, their value starts increasing. And hence the entire economy starts flourishing. What is happening is when I see that my neighbor has been able to earn so much by just offering their network on this blockchain, others also start offering, and then the network starts becoming more powerful, and overall the ecosystem becomes so kind of good network that people are not even hesitating for a moment to start using the service. In fact, just to show you the kind of coverage these guys have already have, right now, this is number which I saw, they already have about almost 4 lakh such routers. They are covering about 30 odd thousand cities till now. in 153 cities. And if you look at these dots, these are the routers which have been put. US and Europe is largely now penetrated with helium, and all being done purely because of the things that we spoke about, the decipher things, decentralized network planning, community managed and operated, incentives, right incentives, being permissionless, no rent seeking at all, trustless environment, anybody can come and start using it, and speed to bring network effects. All that has caused this massive creation of the network, largely because of the principles that we discussed. I'll skip these parts. I wanted to talk about NFTs.
Sorry, Vishal, just a change. I think on popular demand, you please continue with your presentation and we'll manage the time.
Okay, thanks. Is it still visible, the presentation? Vipul, is the presentation visible?
It is visible.
Okay, thank you. I was all through, I was talking about Web3, so I thought I'll end Web3, the topic of Web3 on a lighter note. Somebody had just posted this on Twitter. Web4 will be finally once we start closing our computers and going outside, but it's just on a lighter note. Yeah. Moving to NFTs, and this is one of the most interesting things which is happening in the world right now. The entire world is talking about it. People are going crazy about it. And it is important for us, all of us, to understand what is NFTs. So first, I'll just take a couple of minutes to explain the concept of NFTs and what do they stand for. NFT, the name as it defines is non-fungible token. So in crypto world, there are two kinds of tokens. One is fungible and the second is non-fungible. In fact, every asset can be classified into either fungible or non-fungible. So currency is fungible. You don't care which node do you get. As long as you have money, you're getting money, you're absolutely fine with it. But a piece of land will be non-fungible because the location of the land is important, and hence it commands a different kind of a premium because of the location. So that's same difference exists in the crypto world as well. There are some tokens which are fungible, which is like Bitcoin, Ethereum. You don't care which Bitcoin you're getting or which Ethereum you're getting. As long as you're buying Ethereum, it is fine. So those are called fungible tokens. Then there are non-fungible tokens. These are unique in nature. They are something which is absolutely unique. No other token will be similar to that. And hence the overall demand supply dynamics for these tokens are very different. Right. Now coming to what is an NFT? See, right now what is happening in the world is people are buying JPEGs. So they are looking at JPEGs, they are seeing others buying those JPEGs and believing that JPEG is equal to NFT. But JPEGs are not NFT. JPEG right now, it is probably one use case of NFT. NFT is a proof of ownership. What I mean by proof of ownership is it's a record in the blockchain or in the ledger that I own this particular thing. For example, when I buy a land, there is a central registry which is being kept by, say, a government of that particular country, right? They maintain a record of who owns the land, but that record is not visible to everyone. It's restricted to probably some agencies in the government. They control the record. It's the same thing which is happening on the blockchain as well. NFTs are a record. It's a token which symbolizes that I own something, but it's visible on blockchain and anybody who has access to blockchain can view it. So what is happening is right now people have taken JPEGs and created ownership of those JPEGs and people are trading those JPEGs right now. But eventually what will happen is any asset, anything which can be owned will get converted into NFT because the proof of ownership can be kept in the blockchain and then people will be able to see the proof of ownership and they will decide whether so just extending the land example, tomorrow if I want to buy a particular land and if the records are completely digitized, everything is on blockchain and I know whoever is the owner of that blockchain will also have a non-fungible token which gives the authority to them to sell. I can just search for who that person is. I can just figure out who is the actual owner. go to that person, and then we exchange the token. I give money to them and they transfer the token to me, and then land becomes mine, right? There's no central authority which comes in. Same concept is happening on NFT as well right now, which is images which are being converted into assets which are owned by people, and then people can trade in those assets. NFTs, the way I look at them is they're not JPEGs which are selling. They are proof of ownership, and that proof of ownership gives me the right on any future speculation that happens. So if tomorrow, if this image becomes $1 million worth, I don't know why, but if this image becomes $1 million worth, I get the benefit. There are people who say that, hey, you're buying that JPEG, that image, I can just download that image from the internet. Fine, you can do that. You can absolutely do that. You can download that image. But tomorrow, if the price of that image becomes $1 million, you will not get the benefit out of that $1 million. Because I own that, because it's an NFT and the proof of ownership is in my name, I will get the benefit of that ownership. And right now, the first use case of NFTs is images, but tomorrow everything can become an NFT. I'll give you an example. I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about this platform called IMDb. IMDb is where people go and write reviews about movies, right? But it is such there was some movie comes and people don't agree to the plot, or they don't believe that it's a good movie for their country. They will just go and spoil the rating. And IMDb doesn't have any way to verify whether you have actually watched that movie or not, whether you are actually authorized to write a review or not. What NFT does is, for example, tomorrow, if every movie theater starts giving their tickets as NFT, it's a proof of ownership that I own that ticket. And once I go to the theater, that blockchain will verify that I actually came to the theater to watch the movie. So in a way, there is a proof that I have seen the movie. Now the platform can only allow people who have seen the movie to write reviews. Imagine the kind of content you will get. Imagine the kind of reviews that you'll get. All those emotional appeals of boycotting a particular movie, boycotting something will all go away, because now there is a genuine kind of proof which says that I have actually watched that movie, and whatever I'm writing is based on my experience of watching that movie. This is one just simple example. Tomorrow, all sporting events tickets can become NFTs. All land records can get converted into NFTs. Anything which is ownable, anything which can be owned, can be converted into NFT, and people will trade into NFTs. So this is what NFT stand for. While there is some madness which is definitely going on right now, people are selling JPEGs of rocks and they are trading at $1 million as well. But this is only one part of the NFT. The tech or the belief of what NFT should be, that's powerful enough, and people should focus on that. We should right now ignore the frivolous part of NFTs right now. Just defining NFTs, as I said, currently NFTs stand for art, and then there is a story which somebody is selling, and then there is a community which is behind that art, and hence the value for that art comes out. Because the community believes that it is valuable, the art becomes valuable. In future, what will happen is any underlying asset will become NFT. Anything where there is a proof of ownership will become NFT, and then everything will come on chain. What will also happen is things which will derive their value from being eternal in nature, or anything which is timeless, will definitely become valuable. They will become historic, and all those stuff will get converted into NFTs and they will trade. The way I look at NFTs is it's also a way to seed fund artists. So today an artist might create an art and say that this is what I've created, but tomorrow I'll create few more things. When I'm buying an NFT, in a way, I'm signaling that I'm trusted artist, and I want to bet on that artist, that this artist tomorrow will become something big. And in a way, I'm seed funding that artist. I'm giving that money to him because I know if the artist grows, my value of NFT will also increase, and hence it's an investment for me. Similarly, there are currently, even now, there are certain NFTs which they act as a badge as in. You would have seen, I'm not sure about Mumbai, but I come from Kolkata, and there are a lot of these clubs which are there in Kolkata. So RCGC Club, Royal Tolerance Club, Saturday Club. And these clubs have an entry fees. A lot of these NFTs which are currently trading, they are also acting as a club, and the NFT that you buy is the joining fees that you're paying. And then the innovation which is happening is, once you buy a club membership, you can't trade on it, because tomorrow I get bored about that club. I can't trade it. But in this world, because NFT is the badge to enter the club, I can trade that as well, because I can sell it. Tomorrow I want to join another club. I can just sell this NFT, buy another NFT. And hence it is becoming, there's a lot of utility which is coming. Bored Ape Yacht Club is one very famous NFT club, which is people are buying membership of it through buying an NFT, and that's how the value of that NFT is increasing. As I said, it's a right to price appreciation. Anything which is iconic, anything which is timeless, anything which is eternal, historic, will definitely get converted into NFTs and people will trade in it. Another very interesting point is there are a lot of stuff in the world right now which is valuable but is not at price, because there is no way to price it. I'll give you an example. I'm sure all of us would have seen that inning of Yuvraj Singh where he hit 6 sixes in the over, right? That bat that he used for hitting 6 sixes, it is extremely valuable. There are so many emotions attached to it. There are so many dreams which are attached to it, but it is not priced because there's only one single bat. How do you know what should be the right price for it? There's no way to discover price. Tomorrow, what will start happening is, say for this example, the bat, somebody will take this bat, convert that into NFT, put it on chain, and then issue tokens of that NFT to people. And then once people start trading that NFT, you will discover the price of that bat. You will know how people are valuing that. And hence, that's why I said the future of everything, every asset is going in a direction more towards NFT. Anything which is valuable and not at price will start becoming price. This is a bunch of tweets which I wanted people to just see, but in the interest of time, I'll just skip it. But the core point that I wanted to say about this is NFTs are becoming mainstream. It is just a matter of time, a few years from now, that all of us will start trading in NFTs. We'll probably not see the crazy speculation that we're seeing right now, but NFTs will be part of life in some way or the other. Coming to another very interesting concept, I'll try to keep it brief because we don't have much time. So DeFi, Vipul also touched about it. DeFi stands for decentralized finance. Just to cover up what decentralized finance means, it's a new financial system. It's a new movement which has happened. The key elements of this decentralized finance is it is open to everyone. So there is no restriction per se. Everybody can come in. Nobody decides who gets to get in, right? It doesn't require a trusted intermediary. In terms of traditional finance, the value of traditional finance comes from a trusted intermediary like a central bank or somebody who's ensuring that if something goes wrong, they are there to take care of it. But here there is no trusted intermediary in between. It is completely decentralized. It is based on the cryptography principles that we spoke about. It is built over blockchain, and they have a very special thing called smart contracts, which gives them the power to kind of execute everything. Smart contracts are nothing. It's a code which whatever business rules that you want to define, you've just codified that into a particular code, and you deploy that code. And whenever a particular event happens, you can the code will automatically run, and whatever you have decided will happen. For example, if I define it that suppose a buyer, if somebody is taking a loan against Bitcoin, I have one Bitcoin and I want to take a loan of $30,000. The moment I deposit Bitcoin in a smart contract, the smart contract will pass on 30,000 in the person's wallet, and tomorrow either the person will come and close the loan by paying that 30,000 back, or if the price of Bitcoin goes below 30,000, the smart contract will automatically run. It will sell the Bitcoin and transfer the 30,000 to the person who gave the loan, and the person who took the loan will get liquidated. So there's no manual intervention required. Everything happens automatically, and everything happens on the basis of the code that has been written in the smart contract. How is DeFi different from centralized finance? We've spoken about it. It is permissionless. Centralized finance is permission. DeFi is more open, inclusive in nature. Centralized finance is closed. It is like it's in the closed corridor. Some influential people, some influential companies, they are owning it completely. DeFi is censorship resistant. Nobody can decide whether I can get a financial product or not. If the contract says certain conditions are met, those conditions are met and I get that financial service. Nobody can censor that. Central finance can be censored tomorrow. Anybody can decide that if you don't have, I'm just giving an example. I'm nothing against anyone. If you don't have a particular identity number, you can't trade, you can't put money in a bank. Something like that can come, right? Then DeFi is cheaper because there are no intermediaries. I give that example of banks in between. They are keeping they're getting the float, which is they're taking money at 3%, lending at 12%. The entire money, that 7%, 8% goes to the bank. Whereas it's cheaper because there are no intermediaries in between. Whatever is happening, it is happening between peer to peer. And there are some validators which are ensuring that the sanctity of the network is maintained, but their fees is very minimal. So DeFi per se is much cheaper compared to centralized finance. Then finally, DeFi is built on blockchain, whereas centralized finance is built on old foundations. I specifically wanted to cover DeFi because I believe there are a lot of finance professionals here, and you guys might find it interesting. So I thought I'll cover this in detail. Decentralized. So these are basically some use cases which have already happened about decentralized finance. So there are products which are built on derivatives. There are margin trading products which have been built on DeFi. Insurance has been built on DeFi. Lending, borrowing. I gave that example of lending, borrowing. That has been done. There are a lot of decentralized exchanges which are using DeFi as a tool to service customers. Then there are stable coins also. Before I move ahead to next concept, I just wanted to give one example of how decentralized finance is changing things. And since a lot of us here are from finance, I'm sure you would have heard this when you trade in equity markets, say BSE, NSE, you would have heard this concept of market makers. So any script which is illiquid, which doesn't have enough buyer seller at any time, there's this concept of market makers. What they do is they are centralized authorities which have, because of them meeting certain terms and conditions, they become the market makers. They provide those scripts on loan, and they help provide liquidity. And it is a very guarded thing. Not anyone can become a market maker. Only certain institutions which have been approved by SEBI or certain institutions which have been approved by the central authority, they are allowed to become a market maker. Now comes decentralized finance. The same problem of illiquidity in certain scripts also exists in crypto market, right? But somebody has to solve it, and the way to solve it is in a decentralized manner. So what DeFi or decentralized finance did was somebody created a concept of automated market makers. So what are these automated market makers? They've written smart contracts which create liquidity pools for particular pairs. For example, if I want to create a pair for ETH and USDT, which is a stable coin, so the pair is called ETH USDT. That's a liquidity pair. What is happening is now this liquidity pair is available for anyone and to come and become a market pair maker. What it means is if I own both ETH and USDT, I'll go and interact with the smart contract, and I will transfer my ETH and USDT in the liquidity pool. That becomes a kind of a loan to the smart contract, which then uses for trading and making that pair liquid, and hence people are able to kind of trade more. There are no price shocks or there are no kind of fluctuations in the price that we see. The core thing that I want to talk about is the decentralized manner. Anybody who owns a particular token can become part of liquidity pools. There are no restrictions, and all of them are incentivized. Obviously, if I'm putting my tokens in a liquidity pool, there has to be some incentive for me, right? They are getting some incentive, but anybody can get in, and everything is decided by the algorithms. There are no TNCs, there are no centralized authorities who are deciding this. The algorithms which are deciding it, and everything happens on a decentralized way. And automated market makers are much more smoother in nature because all those frictions of centralized parties, TNCs are removed, and everything happens in a very code manner. Decentralized finance, I just wanted to show the value which has kind of got locked into DeFi.
Vishal, sorry, we'll have to have a hard stop in 5 minutes max.
I'm so sorry.
This time now we'll not be able to manage more.
That's okay. That's absolutely fine. So just want to quickly talk about the value in DeFi right now. It is about 110 odd million, which has been locked. One final thoughts on DeFi before I move out. It's a quote by Henry Ford. It said, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." So everybody knows that the current banking or the economy monetary system, the way it has been designed, it is extremely biased against the common people. And if people understand how they've been taken for a ride, there might be a revolt. And that's the revolt we're seeing in the form of DeFi. People are now moving into DeFi just because they don't want to be kind of suppressed by their centralized banking and monetary system. DAOs are basically, this is the third concept I wanted to talk about, but it's okay, we don't have time. DAOs are basically decentralized autonomous organizations. They are internet communities with a bank account. The kind of problems these, right now the traditional companies, the problem that they face is misaligned incentives, barriers to access. It's very difficult to get into a company to work. There's bureaucracy, there's slow decision making, people have lower morale, and then there is no ownership. I only get wealth. The biggest misaligned incentive is, as a company, there is an incentive for the company to pay as less as possible to the employees. Whereas as an employee, my incentive is to get as high a salary as possible. So there's that misalignment which is there. DAOs solve for that misalignment. The incentives get aligned. So both the organization and people, their interests are combined together. There is flexibility. Anybody can come in and join that DAO. There is no restriction. There is no bar on caste, creed, age, sex, nothing. Anybody can join and become part of the DAO. There is autonomy. If I am good at doing something, I will go ahead and do it. As long as people who are in the part of the community or part of DAO, they are supporting me. Then there is ownership as well. You can see the upside of your own work so because you own a token in the DAO, if you do really good work and if the DAO does well, you also benefit from that ownership. The very good example of DAO is probably Amul. Amul is, I'll probably skip this right now, but if you look at Amul model, if people understand that model, if you add a bit of technology to it, if you add proof of work, a verifiable way of who has done what and what's their contribution, plus you add crypto incentives to it, and you remove all operational intensive nature, what you get is a DAO, which is the core topic I want to talk about. The core thing here is code is law. If anything which has been codified, it is law, and nothing else prevails. Some definitions on DAO, I can skip this. One quickly, this is my worldview of DAO. This is probably last couple of slides. What I believe, not DAO, sorry, crypto. Crypto is tribal. I had spoken about community. The value of crypto comes from the community behind it. And if you are looking at betting on any crypto, the first thing that you should look at is how is the community? Is the community tribal in nature? How do they gel with each other? Because the overall power comes from being a tribal in nature. Second point I want to talk about is Lindy's effect. Lindy's effect is it's a well-known law in the technology world, which what it says is any technology, if it's been there for certain number of years, then chances of that technology to continue for same number of years in future is very high. So blockchain as a technology and Bitcoin as a concept or cryptocurrency as a concept, they've been around for at least 10, 11 years. And at least my personal view, going by the Lindy's effect, very high chances that at least for next 10, 20 years, the concept will exist. It is now upon us to get in early and see if we can make the most out of it. As I said, value lies in the eyes of beholder because the value is coming from the shared tribal belief. There are mimetic desires. People are looking at what others are doing. They're trying to mime into what others are doing, and they're getting benefit out of it. This is good and bad as well, but I'll skip it right now for lack of time. Web3 is inevitable. Web3, the beauty is it is redefining business models. And if at least whatever I've understood about Web3, whatever limited knowledge that I have about Web3, it is inevitable. It will come in all shapes and forms. When is what we need to figure out. It is inevitable. It will definitely happen. NFTs will change the world. DeFi's will change the world. DAOs will change the world. And finally, memes will rule the world. Crypto. Then it was earlier. Crypto was said that only the techies, people with very high mind, they will get into. Now, obviously, because of memes getting in, people are now investing in Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, and all of that. But that doesn't take away credit from crypto as a concept. There are some people who are there for speculation, but a large majority of them are there for the tech as well. Okay, so as I said, memes is very important for crypto. So I thought I'll just end with a couple of memes. I'm sure by now, if you've heard all this, you must be thinking, कौन है ये लोग कहाँ से आते हैं? Who are these people and where are they coming from? It's a pretty famous meme, and I'll skip this. This just one more slide. There's a new perspective which the world has started talking about. Some people talk about Bitcoin being volatile or Bitcoin trading for $50,000, $60,000. People who believe in Bitcoin, they have just reversed the point of view and they've started saying that, hey, don't look at Bitcoin in terms of USD. What they're saying is Bitcoin is money. Start looking at USD in terms of Bitcoin. And what they're saying is USD in terms of Bitcoin is losing. They've lost 98% of their value in the last 5 years. That's what the new perspective these Bitcoiners have. I don't know if it's right, wrong, whatever, but their belief is Bitcoin will end up becoming the global accepted currency. There are countries, there's one country which has made Bitcoin as a official legal tender, but there will be more countries still coming. But that's the perspective. If we just reverse the lens and start looking from the lens of people who believe in Bitcoin, it's a very interesting way of looking at life. So what you guys have heard me patiently for such a long time, I would say just go down the rabbit hole, build your own perspective on whether it's a scam or utility, join a DAO, buy some NFTs, stake in DeFi, do whatever, be part of crypto world. But the key thing that I want to talk about is we are still very early into this. We are still probably top 3%, 5% of the people who understand the concept. And WAGMI, which is a very important term, which is used in the crypto community, which is we are going to make it. And I'm sure if we try to understand more about this space now, all of us are going to make it pretty soon. Okay, ending with a meme. And this is my final slide. And I'm pretty sure this is definitely going to happen. People, especially the finance team who's been busy with traditional finance, they will definitely find crypto, Web3, DeFi, NFT interesting. And yeah, that's where I'll end it. Thank you guys. And sorry for taking so much time.